All right, so as we read today, as we look in the passage, we are God's handiwork, right? We are God's creation. But not just any kind of handiwork. We are His handiwork made to do good. That is what God says. Right? We are created by God in order to do good things. Now that might not seem that possible sometimes, right? Look at the person next to you. Okay, you look at the person next to you and you go, him? Right? Or her? Or some people might thinking, me? Like, how am I supposed to be used for God's good work? Look at my life. How is God going to use me? And this reminds me of the story of David. If you look at the story of David, it's full of just biblical truth. And looking at David's story, he was anointed, right, to be the next king of Israel, the king of God's people. Isn't that right? At a young age, he was a boy, anointed, picked to be the leader of God's nation. Right? But do you know what his current job was? It was a shepherd. He was taking care of sheep. So if you take a close look at David's life, it would seem like there was no connection to royalty. There was no connection to being a king, right? And yet he was chosen by God to rule over, to guide God's people, a whole nation. But this is the crazy part. When David was picked, when he was anointed to become God's leader of his nation, what happened? A timeline wasn't given. It didn't say, okay, by next month, next week, you will be the king, right? There wasn't a timeline that was given. So what did David do? After he was anointed, what did he do? He went back to take care of sheep. Right? And you could have thought to himself, we could have think even to ourselves, shouldn't David have been taking like king classes, like learning how to walk like a king, like learning about politics? Shouldn't David have been taking like charisma class, like as a king, how to eat, how to walk? And yet he went back to take care of sheep, right? If you look at a famous book on David by Chuck Swindoll, he quotes, and I quote, "David did not go down to the nearest department store to try on crowns. He went back to the sheep." Indeed, he was a leader. David was a leader, but he was a leader of sheep. So when you're looking at David's life, David is one day sitting around. You can imagine this, can't you? David is one day, he's sitting around, he's looking at these sheep and go, gosh, they're so dumb, but I love them. Right? Because sheep aren't the brightest of animals. They're not really that smart. So he's looking at them. They don't have claws. They don't have fangs. They don't have teeth. So what do? They need someone to take care of them, to take them to green pastures in order to eat food. And David, I can only imagine him saying to himself, if it's not for me, these sheep, they would have no protector. They would have no one to guide them, no one to take care of them. So I must do my job. See, to David, that might have not made sense. Or to us, that might have not made sense. Because David also, when he takes care of sheep, has to fight bears, has to fight lions, packs of wolves, right? David could have thought, I'm going to be king. I could die doing this. What am I doing here? I need to go and prepare to be king. That's what we would have done, isn't it? And yet David is so faithful right where he is. He's faithful to God because David might have not known what God's plan was, but David did know that God did in fact have a plan. So he trusts in God. He trusts in God and he goes. He does what God has called him to be. David was faithful. He knew God was doing something within him. And he was looking at the big picture. He's tending to these dumb sheep because, in fact, in the future, he would be tending to the dumb Israelites. God's people, right? They keep going into sin and God delivers them and they go, yay, God saved us. And then they go back into their sin. The thankfulness doesn't last too long. And David has to go, no, come back. We have to worship God. And they go, oh, that's right. We have to worship God. And then they go, yay, God. And then they go back into their sin. And David has to go, no, come back. Come back to God. And he would have to take care of these Israelites. So in fact, taking care of these sheep was training to take care of God's people. Another one. Why did he have to fight the lions? Why did he have to fight the bears? Why did he have to fight these animals? Because in fact, David would have to fight against a man that was like an animal, wasn't he? Goliath. So in preparation to fight this Goliath, this war hero, he has been fighting all these animals. At that moment, we might not have understood. We might not have understood what is God doing. But we must understand that God did have a plan. And we might be thinking the same thing. What am I doing? Why am I here at GVCS? What am I doing here? Some of us might be thinking the same thing that David was thinking. But I am here to assure you, if we do not know God's plan, God calls us his handiworks for good. How? How is God going to do that? How is he going to accomplish that here at GVCS? We might not understand. But what God is calling us to do is not understand, but to be faithful to his calling. We might not understand. We might not know what God's plan is, but I pray that we will all acknowledge that God does have a plan. Amen? He has a plan for each and every one of us. I promise you, this is the training that God is putting us through for exactly what he has created us for. A purpose. A purpose in this world. And that purpose and that plan, I believe, is to draw us closer to God. Above all else, God's plan is for us to draw closer to him. Period. Relationally, with our relationship with God, God wants us to have a deeper, stronger relationship with him. And he's training us for that in this place. As David was being trained to lead God's people by leading sheep. As David was trained to fight Goliath by fighting animals. I believe that where David was no accident. And I believe that each and every one of you guys here is no accident as well. This is where our training happens. This is where we learn how to have a deeper relationship with God. But still, some of us might be asking this question. Some of us are still asking, but how? Look at me. Pastor Stephen, look at me. I'm not like this guy. I'm not like her. I'm not like my teachers or my parents. How? How is God going to use me? And I believe that the Christian life cannot be lived by looking at yourself. If you want to live the Christian life, you must look to Christ. You must look to God. This is a very hard statement, but I hope you guys understand this. If you don't, please come talk to me afterwards. You cannot live the supernatural life that God has called you to in the natural. You cannot live the supernatural life that God has planned for you in the natural alone. There must be a connection to this God. And I think that's really hard to understand, so I have something to show you. Okay? For example, okay? We're going to take this Bible, right? You guys see this Bible, right? We're going to take this Bible, okay? Now, and I'm going to use this work glove. Okay? This work glove, right? The way that this work glove has been made, it's very, very well made, isn't it? It has rubber on one side so that when you grab something, it doesn't slip. This glove was made to do work. Would you agree? It was designed, it was created with that purpose to do work. Now, I'm going to tell this glove, lift up that Bible. Lift it up. Okay, ready? Go. It's not doing much, right? Okay, maybe the glove needs encouragement, you know? You can do it. You're the best glove. Right? Is that what it needs? It's still not doing anything. You know what? Maybe it needs some discipleship, you know, some training, all right? So glove, this is how it works, okay? You take your thumb, right? And then you take your pinky, okay? Pay attention, okay? All right? And then you're going to grab it like this. And then you're going to put it on each side, yeah. And then you're going to lift it up, okay? Ready? Go. Still nothing. Okay, one more try, okay? Maybe it needs friends, right? Maybe it needs fellowship, okay? So you know what? I have extra gloves. Like, I have more gloves, right? Now his friends are here, yay! That's what he needs, right? Do it together. Come on, lift it. Okay, you take this side, and then you take this side, and you take that side. Okay, go, ready? Come on. You were made for this. You were created for this. Do it. Nothing. You see, when we take these gloves, when we look at these gloves, sure, it was designed, it was created to do work. But in order for this to do what it was made for, what must happen? There must be a living hand that lives and does it through it. When there's a living hand that goes into this glove to do what it was designed for, to pick up this Bible, now it could do what its purpose is. It can do what it was designed for. The point is this: we might have been created to do good works. We might have been created to do what God has planned for us, prepared for us. But we cannot do it unless the living God is working through us. Just as a glove that's good and it's good for work, yeah, it's good for working. But there must be a living hand that does the work through the glove. Likewise, in our lives, we are created, designed to do good works, but we must let the living God and His Spirit work through us so that we may accomplish what God has prepared for us to do. That is Ephesians 2:10. So don't look at yourself. The Christian life cannot be done. God's work cannot be done looking, well, I'm lacking. I don't know much. I'm only a 7th grader. We can make all the excuses that we want. But let me tell you what. God made no mistake when He created you. God made no mistake when He created you. He created each and every one of us as His handiwork to do good works. If you feel that you aren't being used for these good works, it is a good time to check your heart and say, am I allowing the living God, am I allowing His Spirit to live through me, to work through me? That is my challenge for you guys today. We can only find this God. We can only know this God through the word that God has given us. This is His word. He has spoken to us. You want to hear God? Here it is. If you want to know God, here He is. I challenge you to bring this book. I challenge you to open and read this book and see who God is. See how powerful He is, how living He is, and how He will work through you. How He has created you. That is my challenge. That is my prayer. That is the message that God has for each and every one of us today.